By popular demand and my own laziness, let's be honest, I'm back to review episodes 4 and 5 of Season 2 of the Fallout TV show. Now, you might expect me to get angry over the incredibly childish portrayal of the Brotherhood of Steel, or the fact that the Kings are now ghouls and they just got gunned down by Lucy for no reason. You might even expect me to be smug about the fact that I was right, that the character we see in the past is in fact the real Mr. House, and the other one from Season 1 was just a body double, an actor paid to portray him. Yeah, there were a lot of people who were doubting this twist back when I reviewed episode 1, thinking it would be House's brother or some other completely unrelated character. No, this show is just that poorly written. These two people don't even look that similar, so the only way this plan even makes sense is if no one knows what Mr. House actually looks like. Oh, and how about the fact that a Deathclaw shows up not just in the pre-war, but in Anchorage, Alaska. And yes, I know there's gonna be some Redditor who says, well, actually, the Fallout 2 strategy guide says, yes, I'm well aware that Deathclaws were an experiment pre-war. It still makes absolutely no sense that you would send a giant chameleon, a cold-blooded creature, to the frozen wastes of Alaska. The thing would freeze to death in like 5 minutes. I'm not even mad about Deathclaws taking over the strip and killing everyone, even though that is really, really dumb. But whatever, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. My point is, no, honestly, I don't feel that strongly about these last 2 episodes. I think the idiocy is really caught up to me at this point. Like I said last time, I don't really consider myself a Fallout fan anymore, in the sense that, at least in my opinion, to be a fan of something, you need to actively engage with the IP. And since Fallout has arguably been shit since Fallout 4, it's really hard to be a fan of a franchise that Bethesda is actively trying to destroy. And on top of that, the new fans, aka tourists, completely accept every change blindly, and they just mindlessly consume this garbage. I mean, the classic degradation of a fan base meme describes what happened with Fallout perfectly. The tourists have outnumbered the original fans multiple times over by now. The sales of the Fallout games prove this. And that in and of itself would be bad enough, just changing the tone, the themes, the general quality of the games themselves, all of that declining over time. But it gets worse because the TV show is genuinely just fucking awful. Between the terrible writing, the idiotic characters, ruining every faction from the West Coast, need I go on? No. The only thing I can even compliment from this show is the aesthetics. Some of the costumes are good, some of the sets are good, some of the CGI is okay, and I guess that's all it takes for the average person who pretends to be a fan of this series to enjoy it. Substance does not matter at all. As long as it looks like Fallout from a distance, it's a great adaptation. So I'm not going to waste too much time rambling about nothing or spoiling things in the last 2 episodes. Let's just get straight into the breakdown of episode 4. This episode begins with a flashback scene in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, as many people have pointed out, China has never been named directly as the enemy of the United States in this show. There's been many times they talk about communism, but it's very easy to assume it could be Soviet Russia. But finally in this scene, they indirectly confirm that China is in fact the enemy. It's a small detail, but knowing that there's so many people who've watched this show who never even played one of the games, it's kind of crazy how they've obviously been ignoring the elephant in the room to not piss off China, ironically enough. This scene is a glorified humiliation ritual for any power armor enjoyers out there. I don't know why this show is so intent on shitting on the T-45D power armor specifically. I mean, between season 1 having the ghoul shoot the magical weak spot, one hit killing all those Brotherhood goons, and now this scene we got 3 Chinese just riddling it with bullets, which completely paralyzes the thing and Cooper nearly dies. I guess I should be thankful it's not the T-51B power armor they're ruining, which is ironic that I don't even think it's even shown up in the show, despite being the original only power armor in the first game, and the original face of the franchise, so to speak, being on the box art. But whatever, that's small potatoes compared to what happens at the end of this scene, as a Chinese woman starts rambling about how shitty power armor is. Awesome. A fucking Deathclaw in Alaska in the past comes out of nowhere and gores all 3 of the Chinese people. I think I already said my piece in the intro. This makes no sense at all. It is irrelevant that Deathclaws technically existed in the pre-war. There's no reason they would be in Alaska. Now, in the episode after this, the show does hint that there's something deeper behind the appearance of the Deathclaw here. Mr. House apparently hijacked the camera in Cooper's armor so that he could witness this happening because he suspects that there is another player at work here. Yeah, I'm spoiling an event in the next episode, but I thought it was relevant to the explanation here. I don't really feel like ranting about this for a long time. There's only so many different ways I could say this makes no sense, it's dumb, it's just a member berry. I feel like a broken record at this point, but yeah, it just makes no sense. Okay, so just like my last review, I'm gonna split this into the 3 different plot lines that were going on during this episode. Most of episode 4 felt like filler except for the Brotherhood of Steel plotline, where shit just jumps the shark. It gets to such a level of idiocy that I feel like the show was insulting my intelligence. Like, I'm just supposed to accept what's happening because action good, talking bad. You know, if this was like Warhammer 40k or something, I would agree. I would rather people just like murder each other than watch the political intrigue elements. But this is Fallout. It's not Warhammer. It's not Borderlands. It's Fallout. So this plotline begins with basically a cartoon scene where Maximus convinces his former buddy to put on the Indian guy's power armor so that he can pretend to be him. Oh yeah, I can't see how this could possibly go wrong. Let's just hope he never has to lift up his faceplate at any point, which is even more absurd when you realize that Xander, the Indian guy, the Commonwealth Brotherhood ambassador, wasn't even wearing power armor when he arrived at Area 51. But of course, this isn't dumb enough, so we have to have some millennial humor where obviously this guy has never worn power armor before and is so awkward, and yet the 2 Brotherhood of Steel guys who came to pick them up are complete idiots and just buy this. So they all fly back to the airship where Maximus talks to his trans male buddy, and of course she immediately figures out that something is wrong, because the diversity characters are the most competent and all the white males are idiots. Makes sense to me. So Maximus, who has throughout this show been simultaneously an idiot and evil, decides to do yet another evil thing by killing his leader, the guy who took him in after his parents were dead, Quintus. Yes, he's just gonna kill the leader of his own chapter of the Brotherhood. That's gonna stop the Civil War somehow. And notably, he tells his friend to get all the kids to safety. Yeah, I don't see a problem with trusting the trans character around children. What could possibly go wrong? And then in the next Brotherhood scene, we get some really cringe millennial dialogue from the ghoul guy.
Oh, didn't see you there. Xander, your name is Xander. You got this? All right, buddy, you got it. No big deal. You belong here. You are loved. This is a bad idea.
Emissary.
Yeah, that's me.
Why the hell did he even show up to the mess hall in the first place if he knows he can't eat because he can't raise his faceplate? This scene makes no sense. And of course, for dramatic tension, the leader of the Yosemite chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, the fat woman, decides to approach him to make a deal with him. Then it cuts to the trans character hiding all the kids away since she knows shit's about to hit the fan. Then it cuts to Maximus as he shows up to kill his master. But of course, he has to explain why he's gonna kill him because, I don't know, he's gonna pussy out. Obviously, you know where this is going. Then it cuts back to the lunchroom, and the leader of the Coronado chapter, aka the misogynist-based guy, shows up and offers to kill Quintus in exchange for fusion cores. But then the woman offers to do it for free. But then he makes a misogynistic comment.
That's what happens when you negotiate with women. That's what Coronado doesn't even let them in their ranks.
Then the show keeps cutting back and forth to increase the tension. Basically, Maximus says the worst line possibly this entire season, that is everything wrong with his character and people like him in real life.
I don't choose to do the things I have to do. They just keep happening.
And after this, he finally explains why he killed Xander, because of the ghoul children. It's funny because the way this is framed, Quintus just stares at him like, what kind of children? Like he just knew somehow they weren't just kids. No, yeah, they were ghoul kids. And then Quintus spurgs out and grabs a gun and starts shooting back at him. Again, this is supposed to be dramatic, but it's actually funnier than the actual comedy scenes. Meanwhile, back in the lunchroom again, Ghoul Man starts saying he has a panic attack. Yeah, as if that's a fucking term that would exist in the post-apocalypse. And so the two other elders try to lift his faceplate, but then suddenly the third elder walks in from the other chapter that I forgot, and he says that the relic has been stolen because, yes, the trans character just stole the relic. It was unguarded. There was no one in the fucking room guarding the key to infinite energy. And then the show just completely jumps the shark as the fat bitch, for absolutely no reason, stabs the misogynist in the mouth. And then, of course, the third guy shoots at her, and it's total war. This is the death of the Brotherhood of Steel, at least on the West Coast. They even show the airships shooting each other down. Like, this is full-blown civil war in the Brotherhood of Steel over nothing. Fucking nothing. They don't investigate who stole the relic. Let's just all kill each other for no reason. And they don't even find out that this ghoul idiot was posing as Xander the whole time. I know I said I wasn't mad, but rewatching this scene for this review, it was infuriating, not because of the reasons you think, not because they made Fallout into a clown show, just because this is truly an insult to everyone's intelligence. Don't give me some BS like this is pure dumb fun and just turn your brain off and enjoy it. No, this is horrible. This is one of the most ridiculous and cartoonish things I've ever seen put to film. It is a joke. This would fit in a parody movie. But no, instead it's in the TV adaptation of one of the biggest video game franchises of all time. And to wrap this plot line up, Maximus pussies out and can't even kill Quintus. Ghoulified Buddy, Maximus, and the Troon all escape the base just fine. None of them die as everything is collapsing. Oh, and of course they have the relic as well. Up next, let's talk about the vault, even though this is the one I don't think anyone cares about. This shit is just pure filler. I technically lied when I said it was 3 plot lines because the vault plot line has split into 2 now. Because we still have the water chip crisis in the vault and also the weird political intrigue stuff where the Cyclops woman is a Canadian. Oh my god. Why would I care about that? Also, the incest club became super popular just because people wanted free food. I know, obviously, this is supposed to be building yet another mystery that I'm sure will be answered by the end of the season, or who knows, maybe even next season, because she refuses to cooperate with the other vault and give them water, but again, I couldn't care less about this. And then we have the plot line with Lucy's brother, Big Schnoz, and this is once again where the show gets really stupid. I have to admit, this is something Bethesda would definitely do in their games, but they start wandering the wasteland, which should be the heart of NCR territory. Yet somehow, after well over 200 years since the apocalypse and countless survivors roaming every single building, they find a truck that just has food in it for them to loot that no one ever decided to check over all this time. I guess you could cope and say that it's an NCR truck. Even though we never see people ever drive vehicles in this universe for whatever reason, unless it's an airship. All you need to know from this scene is that one of, like, the supervisor guys, Bud's right-hand man, suspects that Lucy's brother doesn't actually work for Vault Tech. Obviously, they're going to follow up on this plotline in the next episode. As for the final plotline, we have Lucy and the Ghoul. And not much actually happened with these guys. Basically, Lucy gets addicted to Buff Out, aka steroids. The pair finally arrive in Vegas, and obviously people who've played the game know that they completely fucked up the layout here. They go from wandering the wasteland to finding a gate that leads directly to the Strip. They do not have to go through Freeside, which yes, still exists. It shows up in the next episode. This just plain doesn't exist in the games, and for good reason. Freeside surrounds the entire northern section of Vegas. And this must be the gate that we see in the game where you initially get a credit check to be allowed on, because directly on the other side is the Gomorrah. And in the episode after this, we see a completely different gate that leads into Freeside. I know this is getting into like nitpicky details here, but even just logically, it doesn't really make sense that there be a gate from the wasteland directly into the heart of Vegas with nothing in between. So just like the Dinky the Dinosaur statue being backward in Novak, this is like such an obvious mistake that clearly the showrunners just didn't give a fuck, and people will probably make excuses for this. Now, obviously, you could say that's not the real problem with the scene. The real issue is that the Kings show up, and they're ghouls, feral ghouls no less, and Lucy kills them all. Yes, she just straight up shoots what's left of the Kings, including the King himself. I mean, how many more examples do you need to be given that Todd Howard and Bethesda at large and the showrunners all hate Fallout New Vegas and they want to destroy everything from the game and make all of your choices pointless because Bethesda Fallout is the only Fallout? Fuck Interplay. Fuck Obsidian, buy our Goyslop products, you worthless consumer piece of shit. That is what they're saying to you. And people are just fine with it, I guess. And for the final scene and final fuck you of the episode, Lucy and the ghouls step onto the strip, which is deserted. I guess everyone's dead. As it turns out, death claws have taken over the strip. In this episode, we only see one, so it's ambiguous as to whether or not that actually happened, and yeah, it ends on a cliffhanger, because, oh my god, death claws are so badass, which in New Vegas, they were badass, but in Fallout 4, they were pussies. Let me remind you that in the first hour of Fallout 4, they give you free power armor and a minigun, and you shoot a death claw. So that's it for episode 4. I can see why many of you wanted me to review this last week. I figured it wouldn't be enough content for a video, but looking at the runtime and Audacity right now, I probably could have covered this last week. I was just too lazy to. But don't worry, there's still a few things to talk about in the next episode. So yeah, just all around really awful episode, really dumb. I hated it, obviously. Moving on to the episode 5 synopsis. Episode 5 begins by immediately ruining death claws, as it was not just 1, but 3 on the strip. In what is the ghoul's genius advice after surviving in the apocalypse for over 200 years?
I defer to you about what to do in this situation.
Run.
Yeah, outrun a death claw. Anyone who's fucking played New Vegas knows you can't outrun a death claw, but of course this is a dog shit TV show, so the things are like blind, deaf, have no sense of smell, you can just hide behind a car and you're completely fine. So how the hell did they kill everyone? This is pathetic. It's an obvious ripoff of Jurassic Park, hiding from the T-Rex, and they just easily escape by distracting them by blowing up a bunch of grenades. And now they're in Freeside. Now you might be happy to see that Freeside is still intact and actually pretty well populated, but the show really doesn't do anything with this location. We barely see any of it, as you'll see in the rest of this episode. The ghoul talks about how he searched all over the US for his family, finding several secret vault tech vaults that had their employees, but he never found his family, so he assumes that there's one hidden in Vegas, and that's where Lucy's dad is currently hiding out, and of course they confirm not too long afterward that he's correct. The funny thing is, they actually show the School of Impersonation in Freeside, so how the hell did the Kings all end up outside the gate and ghoulified and also feral for that matter? Maybe they'll explain it in the 3 episodes after this, but probably not. It was just a very bizarre choice to kill them off for no real reason. Now, shockingly, the ghoul brings up an arguable minor plot hole from the previous episode, which was Lucy struggling with the buff-out addiction. He brings up getting a dick doll to help get rid of it, which is something that many fans thought of when the previous episode aired. So I feel like I have to slightly compliment the show for thinking of that, because I certainly would have never guessed the writers would even be aware of a dick doll in the first place. Now, the next scene features the ghoul heading to a bar alone, where the bartender tries to chat him up about the state of Vegas, and it is confirmed that the death claws did come from Quarry Junction, so I guess canonically the courier never took them out, and for some reason they decided to attack the Vegas Strip, and I guess the Securitrons weren't enough to stop them, and they just killed everybody or something. The Omertas, the White Glove Society, the chairman, they're all gone. Again, you could be pedantic and say that they don't name specifically that the death claws killed everybody, but it's obviously the implication. Why they stopped in Vegas and didn't kill people in Freeside, well, there might actually be an explanation for that. As many people have predicted, it's possible these death claws are being mind controlled by the chips and they just haven't revealed that yet. I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't really care. I just find it idiotic that death claws are being treated as even more ridiculously powerful than they were in the game, except they're too stupid to kill two people who are right in front of them. The bartender also implies that the NCR and the Legion have been fighting over Vegas for like the past 15 years. So, did Fallout New Vegas even actually happen? This is a debate that people have been having since it was sort of indirectly retconned that the fall of Shady Sands happened before the events of New Vegas. Oh, and apparently, I don't know how I missed this, they actually re-retconned their own retcon in this season. They changed the fall of Shady Sands from happening in 2277 to now happening in 2291, so this show can't even keep its own fucking lore straight. But it truly feels like so many things in the show just exist to negate any of your player choices in New Vegas. Nothing that the Courier did in that game mattered. In fact, they might have not even happened in the first place. And what makes matters worse is that there are rumors that the major plot twist of this season is that the Ghoul was the Courier the whole time, which if that happened, that would be so unbelievably funny. It would be the ultimate I told you so that this show is dog shit that the real fans of Fallout can use to rub it in the faces of these normies for the rest of time. Okay, anyway, let's move on. The major plotline of this episode is a series of flashbacks, which I've already expressed my distaste for these. It's Fallout. I want to know what happens after the apocalypse, not before. But in this case, it is pretty important for the plotline of this season. It starts off with a classic TV broadcast that is obviously supposed to be reminiscent of the original one from Fallout 1's intro, as they discuss that all the big tech companies are talking about the future of the world in Las Vegas. Cooper is on his assassination mission, but he decides to tell Moldaver that he's not going to kill Mr. House, because I guess after seeing the horrors of war, he just can't bring himself to kill a man anymore. And this is where the big twist happens, the big I told you so moment. Yes, the Mr. House from Season 1 was just an actor hired to play him. The real Mr. House is the guy who randomly put a mind-controlled chip on the back of a thug and then exploded his head. Again, they just turned Mr. House into Andrew Ryan from BioShock. I was 100% correct. This scene in his office just further cements that. So Mr. House reveals he is well aware that Cooper was sent here to kill him. He then goes on to explain that he somehow had a camera installed in his power armor when Cooper was fighting in Anchorage, Alaska, and he saw the Death Claw show up and kill the Chinese people. And Mr. House says he does not believe Vault Tech is going to drop the bombs. He also says he's not going to drop the bombs. He seems to think there's another player here. That player not being China, of course. China would never drop the bombs. Please watch our show. Please buy our products. Please, says Amazon. No, I'm just going to make the very obvious guess here and say this shadowy figure in the background is just going to be the Enclave. Of course. This is Bethesda we're talking about. Bethesda wants Fallout to be an eternal struggle between the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave for the rest of time. That's what Fallout is to them. Why? Because that's the most marketable aspect of this franchise, I guess. It's their equivalent of the Rebels versus the Empire. I hope I'm wrong and they actually invented something original and interesting for this show, but we both know that's impossible. Honestly, I think all they're doing here is the writers are backpedaling on their insanely stupid plot point that Vault Tech was going to kill 99.9% of the population to make a profit, because that makes no sense. On the one hand, they can't directly retcon it, but this is like their way of admitting that was dumb by having Vault Tech not be the ones who dropped the bombs. Mr. House also mentions he plans to purchase the cold fusion technology from Vault Tech, which is what allows him to survive in the post-apocalypse. But as we already know, they have perfect cryogenic freezing technology, So instead, he went for this much inferior life support system that turned him into a fucking mummy in Fallout New Vegas. Because the platinum chip wasn't delivered to him on time before the bombs dropped, he was effectively in a coma in this life support system until apparently 2138, as I'm reading this off the wiki. And he didn't even implement any of his plans until a couple decades before the events of Fallout New Vegas. Now, obviously, I'm not going to blame the show writers for the existence of the cryogenic freezing technology. That's Fallout 4's fault. But it does call into question why he would pick this vastly inferior system when he's like the richest man in the world. I'm assuming what's going to happen is that he's not able to acquire the cold fusion, which is why he has to go to his backup plan with the platinum chip or something. Honestly, I'm not sure I care enough to know the real details. We'll just put it at that. Mr. House also implies that Cooper is the key to all this, and that somehow he's going to influence the bombs being dropped because just his very existence changed fate and postponed when the bombs were originally going to be dropped. Dude, Bethesda is so desperate to sell us on this Cooper Howard character. Did you know that Call of Duty actually had a crossover with the Fallout show? Not with the Fallout IP, no, the Fallout show characters. They really seem to think this ghoul character is this mega badass, and they're trying way too hard. I do admit that the ghoul is cool, but the problem is they gas him up to such an insane degree. His feats are crazy. Not only did he fight in Anchorage, he survived over 200 years in the apocalypse. He's been all over the post-apocalyptic United States in that time. But then, when we actually see him fighting, at least in Season 2, he nearly dies to an average rad scorpion. And as you'll see at the end of this episode, they humiliate him even further. Now, there is one part of this scene where I'm going to play the whole clip for you because this is the most, like, Andrew Ryan shit that happens.
What if you're just a fucking lunatic?
I'm a lunatic?
Yeah.
I would encourage you to gaze inward, Mr. Howard, to your small life, spending your days pretending to be a cowboy, while your wife is making apocalyptic proposals at board meetings, and I'm building a missile system to defend this glorious city from what's coming. But from whom, Mr. Howard? From whom? Who ends the world? Is it you? What if it is you? I don't think you're a cowboy at all, no. I think you're a killer. I think I know exactly who you are.
Dude, you could tell the people who wrote this script just wanted to make a BioShock show. Man, I can't even muster up the fucks to give to complain about this because they've already ruined everything else. Who cares if they ruin Mr. House, right? I'm gonna move on for the sake of time. Now, thankfully, there are no Brotherhood of Steel scenes this episode, so we'll just cover the other two plot lines real quick. Back to Lucy's brother's quest line. Him and all of the Vault Tech corpos are wandering the wasteland with no weapons, by the way. I'm glad there's conveniently no horrific mutated abominations or raiders anymore. They go into an old abandoned Vault Tech building. There's a monster beating against some metal sheets, and you think it's going to come out and kill them, but instead, two hags come out of nowhere. One of which was a hag from Season 1, because there's only like 20 characters who exist in this universe, I guess. Then the hag explains that the town she came from in the first season got burned down by the Brotherhood of Steel, and she tells Big Schnoz that his sister is most likely dead. Then the Vault Corpos explore the upper floors of the building. Big Schnoz hacks into a terminal and finds a file on the forced evolutionary virus, which is probably another hint that the Enclave is behind all this shit. Now, of course, there's still no explanation why the Master didn't break into their vault and kidnap all of them and turn them into super mutants, but in the show's timeline, Fallout 1 never happened, so don't worry about it. I mean, again, I'm sure there's some YouTuber that came up with like 30 cope answers to how their vault would be completely fine, even though it was right next to the cathedral in the boneyard, but yeah, no, I think it's far more likely that the showrunners have no idea what Fallout 1 is about. Nobody's played it. No one even read the wiki page of what the plot is. So, safe to assume it just didn't happen. The show is also trying to set up Big Schnoz with one of these corpo chicks, and it's just not working, dude. He's a fucking manlet. He also admits to her that he's not, in fact, who he says he is, and the guy who was suspicious of him last episode was conveniently listening outside of the office. So he comes in in and just straight up tries to choke Big Schnoz to death.
Oy vey, this is antiseptic.
Unfortunately, he lives. Now, as for the Lucy and Ghoul plotline, we have a completely pointless scene where we see the snake oil salesman is just wandering through the apocalypse, heading toward Vegas to, I guess, sell snake oil. But he just so happens to find Lucy's dad, gets kidnapped by him, and he finally perfects the mind control technology and uses it on this bum. Meanwhile, Lucy tries to buy some Addictol, and it just so happens that someone killed the shop owner here and just shoved his naked body in a random-ass barrel and then put his clothes on. Dude, I can't even tell what the tone of this scene is trying to be. Is it trying to be horrifying? Is it trying to be funny? Who the hell knows? Lucy is forced to kill the guy, and then she's like, what have I become? Lucy also, for no reason at all, decides to steal a power fist from the shop. In any case, she gets the Addictol, she takes it, she projectile vomits everywhere, and then her and the ghoul end up in a hotel room together. Lucy's dad then sends in the mind-controlled snake oil salesman who basically just offers the ghoul to take Lucy home in exchange for his family. The ghoul, despite everything the pair have been through up until this point, decides to betray Lucy, shoots her with a tranquilizer dart. But of course, Lucy has a big woman Mary Sue moment, resists the drug's effects, and then punches the ghoul with a power fist, knocking him through the window and getting impaled on a fucking light pole. Dude, this is what I'm talking about. We're taught this whole show that the ghoul's this mega badass who's been through so much. He's raided a bunch of vaults. He's survived the apocalypse for over 200 years. And then a random asphalty bitch just punches him one time and nearly kills him. Now, because the ghoul has mega plot armor, I mean, ghouls are really hard to kill, except those feral ghouls in that scene a couple episodes ago that the Brotherhood of Steel just gunned down like one shot each. Yeah, who the fuck knows? Who cares? The writers don't care. They know you're an idiot. I'm sure he's completely fine because he's the real main character anyway. But this easily would have killed any of the feral ghouls from previous episodes. And yeah, that's it for Fallout Episode 5. Another terrible episode. They ruined more things from Fallout New Vegas. Yep, I'm not even mad, like I said. I find it hard to care about any of this anymore. It is clear that idiots will defend this show to death for no reason other than it's mindless entertainment, and it vaguely looks like Fallout if you squint. At this point, the worst part of making these reviews is just having to watch the episodes twice. Because this show sucks, you know? Like, even in a vacuum, it is not entertaining. Half this shit is boring as hell. There's so many plot lines running at the same time, so nothing even fucking happens in a lot of these episodes. And the plot this season especially feels completely aimless. Like, I have no idea what this is even leading up to at this point. We still have 3 more episodes of this slop to go. Well, at the very least, I promise you best and worst games of 2025 will come out before my next review of this show. That's about it. See you next time, guys.